When did the war end? 1945?
I think.
43, 45. I think it was more or less declared over in 43, but it was 45 before it was ever cleared up. So, 31, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 5, so what did I say? I was about 8.
8, yeah.
10, 11, 12. Yeah, I was 14.
14.
I was 14 when I brought my mum back to London.
Mm.
Yeah, again for the second time. Yeah.
Must have been about 11. 6 years it was, wasn't it? So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It was about 11 or 12.
If we went to school, we had to go down in the air raid shelters, and all we done down there in schooling was reading books. We never got really any education whatsoever apart from reading and spelling, and
So your lessons would be like in the air raid
the
shelter?
lessons was all down in the air raid shelters in the school. So we never really done arithmetic or anything. The only thing we had was morning prayers, and then from then on we just sat and read books, or if the teacher called your name out you had to stand up and spell a word. But apart from any other education we didn't have for quite a few years, until the bombing started to ease up and we could then go back to the classroom until the sirens went again.
Well, the infant school I went to was, well, you know, you still need to go half a day. And as I say, you spent most of the day running from school to home because the sirens would go. And then you'd have to wait till the all clear went, and then you could go back to school. So some days you'd be backwards and forwards, and other days it wouldn't go. And I don't remember much. We had nice teachers because one of them used to come to our house to go in the shelter because she was really frightened. And the schooling crew was great because there was no sirens. Well, there were sirens, but there was no bombs or nothing. So it was just, we were always in school, which was nice. Yes, it wasn't bad school, really.
First, well, actually, I don't think my mum sent me to school after the war because I would have. I mean, you used to go to school when you was 5, didn't you?
Mm.
And obviously the war had ended in
45.
45, so I would have been school age, just coming up to start. And I think because she got protective and didn't want me to leave the house, because of what used to happen. And I didn't go to school for a bit, because when I did eventually, the school, it was what they called a school board man come round looking for people that were absent. And she was told that because it was against the law, she was told she had to take it to school. And when I went in, everybody was all miles ahead of me at school because they'd been there a bit longer. And that was hard because I had to catch up. But I never did really. I never really caught up on that. But it was after the war, of course. We never actually
went to school during the war, did you?
During the war as such, so I can't really give you any insight.
I went to school after the war really as well, but they were so different, weren't they? Because of the war, all mothers could go down to the welfare centre and they could get orange juice and cod liver oil for their babies and for their children growing up, because they wanted to make sure they'd got all the necessary
rickets.
Yeah, nutriments. So Mum used to go down there about once a week and collect them. And when we went to school, they did that in the school as well, didn't they?
And milk.
Milk in the mornings, orange juice in the afternoon, and then we used to have malt, yeah, which was like a thick, it was in a jar, a big brown jar, and it was like a thick, almost like a toffee, wasn't it? But it was runny. And they used to give you that on a spoon, didn't they?
You had to take your own spoon to school.
And you used to have a dose of that every day. And one day I had a dose, and when the spoon came out, I thought, oh, there was a tooth in it. A tooth had come out into the sort of toffee mixture. It was very nice though, wasn't it? Yeah, but I can remember my mum giving me coffee for oil when I was about 3. Oh, you used to have it on a spoon. It was not very pleasant. You can imagine what it tasted like. But that was really all to build the babies up and the children, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, we
When
were
you were
obviously
young.
very undernourished when we was at school.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, no, it was hard for a few years after the war.
we all had our lessons. We had recreation as well, didn't we? We'd have play areas where you, in the school, in the hallways, or sometimes in your classroom, that was like where you could play house, or you could play doctors. You know, it was very relaxed in a way. Yeah, I do. Or you could be an engine driver on a wooden train. You know, they used to have all nice things like that at school. You did. And of course we learnt lessons. But every afternoon, before we went after our dinner, we used to have to go to sleep. Do you remember that? We used to have like camp beds.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you've heard of them?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they had calico in them, didn't they? Like a calico material that you used to lay on. And you used to have to go to sleep then, didn't you? And then you used to have playtime. And then we used to come back in and we always used to have a story read. And then we could go home.
We started when we was 5,
Yeah.
and you left when you was 14,
Okay.
straight out the door.
Mm.
No parties, no dances, no nothing. All sitting on the floor
Yeah.
in the sitting room.
Yeah.
You've got this on. In the sitting room, we had to sit quiet. Daddy put the radio on, and we all had to sit quiet when Winston Churchill gave a speech to say that war had been declared on Germany, and that was in, I think it was 1939. Yeah.
How did you feel?
When you're that age,
You think-
Neve,
Yeah.
it doesn't really sink into you.
Yeah.
The only thing that I can remember that's always stuck out in my mind
Yeah.
is the headmistress that we had at school.
Yeah.
She was a lovely lady,
Yeah.
really, really lovely, but she was German,
Yeah.
and most of the time when we went into school, she'd welcome you all and say good morning, and she'd say prayer. We had to say prayers and sing a hymn. But then most of the day when you saw her walking about, or when she was down the aero tour, she was always crying.
Mm.
And we couldn't work out why she was always crying, because we didn't realise she was German.
Oh.
And she thought that the English would have sent her back to Germany where she didn't want to go.
Oh.
So each day that went by, she used to thank God that she was still in this country.
Mm.
And she used to cry most of the time because she didn't want to go back to Germany.
Yeah.
Yeah. That always stuck in my mind, and you know, it goes through your mind from time to time when people are talking about during the war.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, the rest of the time, I suppose you was that young until the bombing really
Yeah.
took in, when you was running for your lives with Germans flying over. I mean, I can remember we had to go to a clinic. Mummy had to take us 7 to a clinic to make sure your heads was clean, you hadn't got nits or fleas. And on the way back, the sirens went, and we had to walk round this great big park, Kennington Park,
Yeah.
where up above us all the German planes are flying and ducking down and up, and my mum had to usher 7 of us right the way till she met a policeman, and he put us all in an air raid shelter.
Wow.
Yeah. And Kennington Park, we was going in that shelter
Yeah.
that night that was bombed, and the policeman said to my mum, "I'm sorry mum, you'll have to come with me and I'll put you in another shelter, this one is full." That shelter was bombed that night, heavy. And there was something like, I'm not sure, I think Mummy's going to take you to the Imperial War
Yeah.
Museum. In there you'll know, or you should find out, Neith, make sure, how many people in that shelter died. And I think it was 500 and something,
Wow.
which was a lot of people.
Yeah.
Mummies, dads, children, babies. Everyone that was in that shelter died. It was terrible. Oh, it was horrendous. Yeah, it was so sad, that. And it's like when you got up in the mornings and you wondered if your house was still standing or if it had been bombed.
Yeah.
Luckily enough, the 2 houses and our house were still standing.
Yeah.
Then you'd go quite a long way before another house was standing. And from then we had to go down an alleyway, and in that alleyway that we had to pass to get into our house, there was all these blankets laid out, right, onto each individual, and there was about 30 different coloured blankets that we had to pass. But being that age, when you're young children, you didn't realise that was many of them was your school friends and their mothers, who you was all friends with, was all lying dead under them blankets.
Wow.
Because their houses had been bombed
Yeah.
and they were killed in it because they didn't go down the air raid shelters. Yeah. We didn't have pets during the war. One, because we couldn't really afford to feed them with the rationing.
Yeah.
So, but then when the houses got bombed either side of us, and all the rubble was in all up the back, there was all these cats that where the people had been killed, all going and not knowing where to go to. So that's when I went up, dug out the rubble and made them a shelter, put bricks in to make them a proper little step up and to go in there. And each cat that I found, I made another little house, and I finished up in the end where I dug out and made 25 shelters for the little cats and kittens.
Wow.
And I used to go to my mum and ask her for a drop of milk, then I would fill that with water, take that up, find the little bowls, put the milk in each cat's bowl so it had a drop of milk a day, and then my sister used to get me to run to the shops while the air raids wasn't on, and I earned a penny each time I went.
Mm.
I saved my pennies, and at the end of the week when the cat's meat man came along on his bike, I would then buy 5 pennies worth of cat's meat. My mum used to help me cut it all up, then we'd take it up and share it out amongst all the cats so that they all had something
I didn't
to eat.
personally have any because I didn't like animals, because everybody used to bring all the strays to my mother, and she'd have anything that had a bad leg or a bad eye, or dogs, cats, rabbits, and they used to bring them round the back, and we had a big shed, and they used to be in the shed, and she'd feed them. She never bought food, she'd give them what was left of dinner and that. And they used to bring all this, and you know, you didn't have a vet then, and she'd kill them herself, and we used to have to, no wonder I don't like animals. Like, she had a great big bath like that, and she always had cats herself, and she couldn't do anything with them, put them in the bath, and we used to have to pass buckets of water out, and she'd throw them in the bath until they, you know, died.
During the war, we was evacuated, and my mum came with us. We was evacuated up to Leicester, where we stayed in a scout's hut next to this great big lady and gentleman's house, and we had many happy days there, and we stayed there until we was, I suppose, about 2.5 years, which was really the happiest days, because we was away from all the bombs and the planes, and we stayed there, and then we came back. I was about 8 or 9 when we was evacuated, and then we had to come back to London because my mum wasn't well, and she had to go into hospital. So it was about another 3 years before we could go back to where we was evacuated. Glebe House, where we was evacuated to, they had it was all a great big estate, so you had all the trees. We made a little tree house underneath, and Mummy used to give us make us up bottles of lemonade powder with water, and we used to take that and she'd give us, if she had any, a few biscuits to take, or she'd make us up little finger sandwiches, and we'd spend the day out there in the woods, which we could do near the house. We'd run up and down the bank. When it was winter time, the man who owned the house, he and the gardeners used to check out the big pond lake, and we used to skate on there with him, his wife and 2 children. They had skates, but we didn't. We had pieces of wood underneath our shoe, which we tied with rope, and that is what we skated on round the lake in the grounds.
So cool.
Yeah, and we had so much fun doing that, because you fell over, you got up, you was young, you bounced up. Yeah. We had good fun down there.
Oh,
And the summers never seemed to end. They was always hot and sunny in the summer. And we had some great times. So we had great times down there.
would you say that's like one of your best memories from the war?
It was one of the best
Definitely.
memories because you had so much wildlife on it. The ducks, all the baby ducks when they was born, herons, and when we was evacuated, it was one of the best times of our lives because we didn't have to keep stopping and running every time the siren went off. Yeah, so very happy memories of Leicestershire and the little village. We used to go to church in the Sunday mornings. We used to go to the afternoon children's one, and then we'd go again in the evening because it was a very quiet little village and you
Yeah.
didn't have a lot to do. So we always made Sundays the day that we always spent in church. So we had some lovely times. Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it.
Cool.
Just go down to take a ration book down to the shops and they used to get little prisoners and cut out little square bits, and that was your ration for the week. Or you could save it up and have it in one go if you was lucky enough. Clothes, everything was rationed.
People used to make clothes out of old curtains, didn't they? And sometimes even blankets off the bed. And I've heard stories that when a parachutist came out of a plane, and if the ladies that lived locally could get hold of the parachutes, they would, and they used to make undergarments out of them.
Also silk.
Because it was all, they were all made of silk, so of course they felt quite luxurious. And that was quite a well-known thing, wasn't it? But rations, they went on for a long time, didn't they?
50s, didn't they?
Yeah, but I never really can remember thinking I was hungry.
No, because you wasn't used to eating.
Maybe not, yeah. But things like fruit, unless it was grown locally, where you could go to the farms and get it, fruit was very hard to come by.
Never saw bananas
No.
until the late 50s, didn't we?
Oh, these are really the late 50s, bananas, pineapples, all that sort of thing, you just never had. You only had like cherries, apples, pears, raspberries, strawberries, things that grew in England. And even if they were in the shops, you'd only be rationed to have so much, because it all had to go round. But sugar and tea, you used to get a tiny little bit of tea, didn't you? And they were all in the shop I used to go to, they were all in blue bags. They'd weigh the tea up, and then you'd get a little square bag, put it in, and then wrap it all up very neatly and curl the top over, and that was your sugar, your tea for the week. Same as sugar, wasn't it, as well? 2 ounces of butter. Can you imagine that? Just a tiny piece like that high. 2 eggs, fresh eggs. You couldn't get, everything else was powdered egg, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if you lived in the countryside, you'd probably get eggs from your neighbours and things like that, who had chickens. We kept chickens, actually.
And you kept rabbits.
Rabbits, yeah, we had rabbit.
And you hated that, didn't you?
Well,
Having to kill the
I
rabbits.
wasn't allowed to name them because you should get friendly with a rabbit because you was going to eat your dinner later.
That's a bit sad, isn't it? Yeah. I suppose we were more fortunate in a way until we moved to London, because we did have quite plenty of food. Milk, butter, cheese and all that sort of
There
thing.
was no obesity.
There was not, no. But moving down, sweets, if you could get a half penny of sweets, you were really doing well, weren't you?
Everyone had a ration book, and for anything from meat to groceries, butters, sugars, milk was all rationed, and you had coupons in the book for those, and you was allowed about, say, 2 ounces of butter per week, and like cooking fats, anything like that, meats, everything was made from cakes and pies. They was all made indoors by your mothers. And meat pies when they could get enough meat. But apart from that, we never starved. We always had a dinner, even if it was a thick vegetable soup. And we managed because my mum had 7 of us, so it all mounted up and we got bigger quantities. But it wasn't pleasant, but we never went hungry because they all knew how to cook.
So we never had sweet things, and of course we never had any processed foods or foods that were in packets at all. No cakes were in packets, you'd buy everything from the bakers, wouldn't you? And bread, none of that was wrapped and ready to sell.
Not broken biscuits.
Yeah, that was the thing.
Why did they break the biscuits up?
Yeah, I don't know. I used to go into the co-op down in Plumstead, and they used to have big square tins like that, about that deep, with lids, and they'd all be on the counter, wouldn't they? And the biscuits were all pristine, you know, okay, but as they got to the bottom of the tins, obviously bits that got broken got put further down, and then you could go in and buy them really cheap, couldn't you? And sometimes you could have a mixture, maybe a few out of that one and a few out of that one and a few out of that one, so they were all mixed up, weren't they? And they used to be lovely. I used to like those.
Salted packets.
Yeah. And sherbet was a good thing. You could get lots of sherbet, couldn't you? That was all right. And you used to get sticks of licorice wood. Have you ever heard of that? No, it just looked like a stick from a tree, a branch of a tree. But it was very chewy, wasn't it? And you used to dip that inside the sherbet, take it out and really crunch on it and chew it. And it all used to shred, didn't it, this licorice wood? And it used to taste licoricey. Do you think they infused it with licorice, or it was a wood that's tasted that way?
Plant that tastes the licorice, I think.
Yeah, that was a great treat, that was, wasn't it? Yeah. So, yeah. So everything was really, either you made yourself at home in your own kitchen, or you'd go to the bakers or the butchers or the greengrocers to get things, but things were rationed for a long, long time.
Yeah, there was a lot of black market stuff about, which was being sold illegally, but...
And to have clothes, especially for children, it was nearly all what the husbands wore cut down, wasn't it? And what the wives wore, you know, skirts that were cut worn in certain areas, they used to cut them down and make them into children's clothes. So, but we never really felt as though we was without. They did get passed down, yeah. And you couldn't buy clothes off the peg in the shops like you can nowadays. There just weren't any to buy, were there? Unless you were very rich, of course, and then you'd got the money. But normal families, you just didn't buy clothes, did you? So if the shirt went on your collar, you'd take it off, turn it the other way and stitch it back on. So the warm bit that was round here was on the other side. And if you had sheets that were worn in the middle, bed sheets, then you'd cut it down the middle, take the two sides into the middle, sew it up, so you'd have the better pieces of the sheet that was down the sides in the middle and the warm bits down the side. So you sort of made like a new sheet. And people used to do that, didn't they?
My auntie worked in the shirt factory in Woolwich. My dad used to give her his shirts, and she used to take them to work. He used to cut the towel off the shirt, put another one on with different material, and then repair his shirts, so he always looked like a good shirt.
And cuffs.
But he's in cuffs because he's got no towel to his shirt. it was a different material.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, all sorts of tricks on it.
Yes, yeah. Oh, and when you'd finished with them, going back to the tea and the sugar, when you finished with that, say you'd used your last spoonful, you didn't then screw the bag up and throw it away. You used to open the bag up, fold it out and paper out, so that any little bits that got caught in the corners, you could tip out into a jar so that you wouldn't waste a single thing, was it? Even little tiny little tea leaves you'd put into a jar, so you'd got some for the next packet to be able to put in the jar, and gradually you had quite a little bit coming up, didn't you? Yeah.
Soap.
Oh, soap, yeah, that
Soap
was
used to
hard.
be put into, all the ends of the bits of soap you used to have to put
Yeah.
into a jar with water,
Yeah,
and then it went solid. And you've got
Yeah.
another, all different types of soap or whatever you had.
mm.
You tip it out and you have a bar of soap again.
Yeah. It was quite ingenious the way people used to think of how to do things, wasn't it? I suppose you had to because you didn't have anything, did you?
No. No.
No. So women in the home, they used to make lots of jams and chutneys, didn't they, and keep them all the year because they were quite easy to get hold of. Lots of people had fruit trees in their gardens, didn't they? Grew tomatoes and cucumbers. I expect you've heard of they used to dig up their gardens to grow vegetables and everything. And nothing was wasted. Any odd scraps used to go into chutneys and pickles, didn't it, and jams. You had to be quite ingenious with working out how to feed your family, really.
Yes, I remember that going on for years afterwards.
It
My mum
did.
got into the habit of doing it.
Well, my auntie, she lived to be what? Almost 90, and she still did those things, didn't she? She still did that with the sheets, with the shirts, with the food, putting it in jars, with the soaps, everything. She never threw anything away. So old habits die hard, I suppose, and it teaches you to be a bit thrifty and save your money.
Well, the way people throw away stuff nowadays, it's unbelievable.
And we only ever had English type food. We never had any of the continental food like we have now, do we? Like pasta and pizza dough. We never had anything like that. Everything was 2 meat and, what is it, 2 veg and 1 meat?
Yeah, if you like.
Yeah, if you love it. Yeah.
Yeah, and after the war, when eventually I grew up and got married and had my first daughter, Dawn, then I brought Dawn up as my mum and as close as my mum had to all us children. I taught her right from wrong, how to spend money, how to save money, what prices was, and all things like that, because like me, Dawn never had what children have got today,
Yeah.
and anything that they wanted, like clothes, shoes, occasionally birthdays and Christmas toys, was only they was the only things they ever had, apart from books and colouring, and then you got paints after that so they could paint. But I taught Auntie Dawn and Mummy the way my mum had brought us up,
Yeah.
to be lovable to all of their family and teach them right from wrong. Don't ever tell a lie, because you've got to tell 10 then to try and get out of it. So I did teach them right from wrong. My mum was everything to me, and I made sure I was everything to Dawn and Debbie. And I still, to this day, carry on how she brought us up, and if I have to pick them up on anything, then I will. Normally now it's the other way, telling mother what to do, but no, we had a loving, really lovely bringing up, and as I say, right from wrong, but we never had what you have all got today.
Yes, definitely.
Well, rationing affected us right until well into the 60s, didn't it, really? Because we wouldn't waste food, we never had it.
And we don't do that now. It's like it must have affected us in a way, because if we've got anything left over, I never sort of throw it in the bin. I always put it in the fridge, and then if we're cooking something the next day, I think, oh, that'll go with that, so we use it then, don't we? So it has made me more aware of what I'm doing with
We don't
food.
waste.
No, I never waste food. If I've got if you've got bread over or something, a lot of people will just throw the crusts away, but we don't do
Make
it.
bread puddings.
You know, like the end of the breads. Yeah, you can make bread pudding with it, or you can make an apple charlotte with it, where you can put it in the basin and put apples on top, and then put more bread on top of that, put milk on, and a few raisins perhaps, and bake it in the oven. So you make use of what you've got, you know? You, I think, much more careful with food. Much more careful.
We had petrol rationing much longer than anything else. So people didn't go driving around. There wasn't many cars. It's only
We could play in the roads, couldn't we? Which we did. That was our playground.
no cars parked in the road whatsoever.
No.
So
They were our playgrounds. We used to go out into the roads with all our friends and play ball across the road and skipping them.
no,
So I think food has affected the way we eat
we
food
look at
today.
things a lot different
Mm.
to what people do nowadays.
Always looking to see if that's value for money, or, well, no, that's a lot of money for what that is. So yeah, it has really. Yeah.
Suppose after the war, when you stop and think about it, although it was a bad thing, a very bad thing to happen, it rearranged your life to a certain extent, that when you was that much older and coming into your teens, you realised, I suppose to a certain extent, that it had taught you some things, what you could have and you couldn't have. And when you got it, that extra, when all the ration books was over, and you got that extra, it taught you how to handle things, what you'd always been without, so you never really took advantage and grabbed at it. You took it in your stride. It taught people a lot, and it brought people so close together.
Yeah.
Not like today.
Yeah.
People was always very close with everyone in the street or the close, and it definitely did make a difference to you, because you knew right from wrong, what you could do, what you couldn't do. But
It was a strict
to
time
that
as well.
extent, the war definitely taught you what you could have, what you couldn't have, what you could afford, because unless you was a bit where you spend, we wouldn't do that. We never bought anything. We'd seen things that we wanted, but we never bought them, because until we knew we couldn't afford it. So you saved the money each week until you got the money, and then you could go out and buy that item. So it taught you a lot, a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
And I suppose we've got to be grateful for that.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I've been back to Germany for the Christmas markets and everything, and I found the people lovely. Although we don't speak German, somehow you get on with one another when you're all out carol singing in the streets of a night and all the bands are playing and people all mingle round and you nod and you smile, and it did, Neve. I suppose it taught everyone a lot, and people was a lot, hell of a lot closer then than what people are today. You knew who your friends was, who you could trust, and yeah, even to the man who collected your insurance money, you could trust them. I mean, the milkman used to call through the door, "Morning, missus." He'd be in the kitchen, and your milk would be put on the table for you. Not like today, your door's never open, is it?
No.
Because you can't do it today.
No.
But it was done then, yeah? The coalman used to come straight through the house, out the back door, into the garden, left all your coal. From the sack full, from the horse and cart in the front. Where's that done today? You don't realise, Neve, that most of the things, when I was a child, it was always done on a push bike or a horse and cart. The fresh veg and all that was bought on. But then during the war you had to dig, the fathers had to dig the gardens up and plant the veg and everything from seed. So you was going in your own garden like they're trying to teach them today, but it don't get through on a lot, to go out, and I'm still doing it. This year I grew lettuces, runner beans, radishes, strawberries, all out on my little patio. So you see, the war definitely did teach you, in one sense, right from wrong, on what you could have, what you could do, and what you could spend. If you were sensible and saved up for everything before you bought it. See what I mean? But as I say, everything was delivered by a cart. You had the muffin man round every Sunday, the man who sold the winkles and shrimps and prawns and mussels. They all come round Sundays. You always know they used to ring a bell when they come along, and everyone rushed out to buy the muffins for Sunday tea and dripping, beef dripping. Yeah. Because, I mean, they're not allowed to be on the roads today.
No.
With what so-called drivers you've got, and the roads being full of the cars. So, you had better, happier, far happier days where everyone could walk where they liked. Children never played in the street. You was always in your back garden. You never, where we were, you never had boys out kicking footballs and hitting the windows or anything like that. And that all come over the later years. All the children, and I mean, us as children, we used to go in the back garden, and my mum bought us a little pair of weighing scales, and we used to find little stones for potatoes, weigh them up. They was the potatoes. You'd go round picking little leaves. They was the greens, and all things like that. And then Mummy would give us the empty pea pods where she'd chuck the peas, and you used to use them and weigh them all up, and then the others used to come and used to serve them all. And that's what your games was made of. I mean, to children today, that they laugh their hats off. But we had the happiest time. of anyone's lives, I tell you, because everything was short, but what you had, you appreciated, and you loved your parents for it.
I don't know if it affected you. I mean, you used to always hope, especially if you had boys, you used to say, well, I hope there's no war, because I wouldn't like them to go in the army or the navy, or I know some boys go in it if there's no war, but you'd always say, well, I wouldn't let them go in the army, and I wouldn't let them do this, but you couldn't stop them if they were called up. And I don't think you talked to them about the war, did I? I don't think...
We asked questions, like Neve's doing.
No, you never ask
We don't
questions.
ask questions.
I think the only thing I might have done, I might have told you the story of your dad.
Yeah.
I think I told them that because I felt they should know. But I don't think they were particularly bothered, because it happened, a long time ago, didn't it? I don't think they dwelt on it at all, did you?
Suppose not, no.
No, they didn't. You see, because it didn't happen, and it happened when they were old enough to be told. It was a long time ago, and it didn't mean anything to them, because they didn't ask questions about how did it affect the dad. They just didn't ask those questions because they couldn't. They just know that what happened and that was it. Children are good like that, I think, aren't they? They take things better than grown-ups, really.
So, no, I had the happiest time, not during the war, but after the war, the rest of the growing up, and when we was evacuated, we had the best time of anyone. I would never go back, and I wouldn't be sad at anything, because after that we had so many lovely days, and was loved by my mum. Yeah, really was.
Who do you think you are kidding, Mr. Hitler, if you think we're on the run? We are the boys who will stop your little game. We are the boys who will make you think again. 'Cause who do you think you are kidding, Mr. Hitler, if you think old England's done? Mr. Brown goes off to town on the A21, but he comes home each evening and he's ready with his gun. So watch out, Mr. Hitler, you have met your match in us. If you think